Hey guys, Greg here. So this week I spent all my time in American cities on the Atlantic coast that I have never seen before. Last week I visited Boston, and this week I hit New York, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. So let's jump in. New York. New York is a magical place. In this video I'll tell you what I did in New York, but if you want my real opinion of the city, check out the other video I made. Links in the description. So when I arrived in New York, I parked in the Bronx and I took the subway down to Manhattan. By the way, the New York subway is awesome. Firstly, because it's super efficient. And secondly, because this happens.
Listen, 72nd Street. Transfer is available to the 1 train.
So I got off the train at Times Square and my mind exploded. Sensory overload. I have never been in such a lively place. So many people, so many lights, so many things going on. I spent a couple hours just walking around Times Square and down Broadway. That night I also made my way to Rockefeller Center, and on the way home I took a midnight stroll through Central Park. And I walked around quite a few neighborhoods. A lot of trash. And because of that, there's a lot of pigeons and rats. More rats than I've ever seen in a day. The next day I went to Wall Street, the New York Stock Exchange, saw the Empire State Building, the 9/11 Memorial, Chinatown, Little Italy. I ate a ridiculous amount of pizza. New York pizza is like $1 a slice, and it's so delicious. I wanted to see all 5 boroughs, so I took the subway to Brooklyn and to Queens, and I took the Staten Island ferry to Staten Island. This is where I got my best view of the Statue of Liberty. And that night, I went to a Broadway musical. Book of Mormon is hilarious. I'd recommend it to any South Park fans out there. Anyway, on to Philly. Not my favorite city. I basically saw all the touristy stuff, like the Liberty Bell, Independence Hall, and the museum where Rocky runs up the steps. Then I had a Philly cheesesteak sandwich and got out of there. It just wasn't a very nice place. Then on to Washington, D.C., America's capital. My time in D.C. was mostly spent seeing all the national buildings and monuments and such. Unfortunately, it was a really shitty day, the worst weather I've had so far since crossing into the U.S. Snow, rain, hail, I was soaked after my first hour in the city. And I spent 10 hours in the city. I did manage to see the White House, the Capitol building, the Smithsonian Castle, the big national monuments I forget the name of, the Lincoln monuments, and the big long pool in the middle of the yard. Definitely a lot of cool structures, and it was cool being around a place with such high security, assault rifles and all. Also, all the Smithsonian museums are free, so I went to almost all of them. A bunch of cool art museums, the Natural History Museum, the Air and Space Museum. A lot of information in one day. Anyways, DC was the last of the major cities in the northeastern states that I really wanted to see. And south of DC, there's more undeveloped land, which means I could finally get out and camp again. So I found a spot out in the woods of Maryland to spend a couple nights. After this, I continue my trek down the East Coast. So this weekend's in Maryland. Thanks again for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, I will see you same time, different place, next week.